a few times. Give me a moment while I organize my screen. I apologize. I should have had this done already, and I don't. So, and then it did something rather ridiculous. Okay, I think I'm ready. As I've mentioned once or twice, maybe more, the virtual lectures don't necessarily run concurrent with what you're doing in the book, what you're doing in the course. And with that being said, I'm jumping ahead from where I had you in this past lecture dealing with very early childhood and how you build a cognitive base, your thinking formation, in other words. How do I remember things, etc. If you watch the lecture, you know what I'm talking about. I hope you do watch them. It's a lot of time and effort goes into these things, as you can tell. But I want to move to adolescence, and then next week I'm going to talk about middle and late adulthood, and week 7 I'm going to talk to you about death and dying, and that'll wrap it up for the semester. So let's get started with this business of adolescence. And I've picked an area because this tends to be a perception in some ways. It's not neuroscience. So we're not talking about how you form this, form that, form the other in your brain. By the time you're an adolescent, this is formed, all that stuff. I want to talk to you about everyday, real life, emotional things. This section is called Socio-Emotional Development, and it's in the adolescent ages. It's 13 through 19. Now, that's the traditional view. You will see, if you look at enough psychology, particularly developmental psychology, what you're going to see is a new view of that. Adolescence beginning somewhere around 11 and ending, believe it or not, at the age of 29. I find that a little far-fetched. It doesn't fit into my little scheme, but who am I? So we're dealing with the traditional view because of the science that we're going to be talking about. And that's socio-emotional development, 13 to 19. Mainly the lower end of that range. Actually could even move this further down into the early stages of development, when you begin to interact with other human beings. And particularly when you develop understandings of what it means to be accepted, rejected, pretty, ugly, big, little, all these concepts that form in your mind. And those are socio-emotional things. So does it quit in adolescence? No. But we're doing the formative part of this. So it's a rather early part of adolescence. So let's stick with 13 to 16, somewhere in that neighborhood. The age is not as important as the information. Now, I may jump around a little bit. There are two things that are taking place here. Self-esteem, which begins early, well before adolescence. And then the other thing is identity. I'm not going to go too deeply into either one of these. I will tell you this, self-esteem is powerful. It causes wars, it causes murders, it causes upset, depression, anxiety. It's a very powerful emotion. How do I feel about me? Do I feel good about me? Do I feel yucky about me? Do I think I'm pretty cool? Do I think I'm pretty yucky? You just pick an area. You have your own self-esteem. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody does. There's some self-esteem in your life, be good or bad, and it was affected by those around you, and all kind of things. And then the other part of that's identity. And identity is, who am I? What am I made of? What makes up Dr. Dasher? What makes up Mary or Albert or Juanita or whatever the case is? Who are you? What are your abilities? What are your lacks of ability? More of that later. So let's look at some of these things in the identity realm, because that's powerful, like self-esteem is. Some of the things that develop over time. Now I'm getting a little out of the adolescent period here, but these begin early, and by the time you're in your teens, they're pretty locked in. So, except for your professional career. So let's look at these. I'm going to jump through this list and not explain it. I'm just going to hit you with the highlights, the headings, and then you can kind of do your own research, because after all, in college. So one of the things to consider: vocational or career identity. Not am I doing it now as an adolescent, where am I going with that? Although some people began their career that young. Political identity. I think you can already begin to see there's a lot to identity. Religious identity, relationship identity. Am I in one? Am I not in one? Why am I not in one? Or what am I doing in this one? Or whatever the case is. Achievement, intellectual identity, achievement/intellectual identity. What have I accomplished? Am I a good student, as in good grades in school? Am I not? Why am I not? Is it my fault? I know somebody right now that thinks they're going to go to a university in this state, and they got accepted, and that's probably going to be the limit of their success unless they buckle down, mature a little bit. I won't tell you who it is. You wouldn't know them anyway. But they're going to have to do a lot of changing in order to be successful. So their achievement/intellectual identity, they don't have a good grip on that yet, and they're pushing 20. So go figure. Sexual identity, won't chase that down that rabbit hole, but you got the idea of what that means. And it's way more pronounced now than it was in the past. I'm not judging or criticizing or saying anything. I'm just telling you that for us to sit and discuss that, you need to take my human sexual class. It's a grad school class. Interests. Am I athlete? Do I like food? Do I like music? What hobbies? We all have those. I'm a former college athlete, and I like food, and I play drums, and I fly airplanes for a hobby. So there you go. All that started many, many decades ago. That's part of my identity. Personality. Am I introverted? Or you introverted, extroverted, anxious, calm, depressed, etc.? Personality, yes, includes anxiousness and depression. That's part of your personality. It's who you are. Physical identity. Boy, you can get in a lot of trouble here. What do I think of my looks? What do I think of my body build? Or am I muscular or whatever? So I think you get the picture. That's just kind of the iceberg tip of identity. How does it form? You'd have to go through this whole semester studying nothing but that. Erickson has a view. Eric Erickson talks about psychosocial development and the factors involved in that. How do you establish yourself? How do you establish identity by the age of 13, 14? You ought to have that going. Time you're in high school, you should know who you are. There can be doubts there. And then James Marcia has yet another theory about that. His is rather interesting. It's has to do with your achievement or lack of it. I won't go into that right now. Maybe I can get into that in another lecture before the school year ends for us, the semester that is, excuse me. So what does it mean in terms of development? Because that's what we're all about. Well, it neither forms nor ends during adolescence. The bulk of it is there, but it's going to change. What are you going to develop an interest in? Early on, when I was in high school, for example, I hate to keep using me because I love myself to death, right? When I was in high school, I didn't want to go to college. I thought it was a waste of time, but I had two options. I could go into college or go to Vietnam. And I didn't choose Vietnam, it chose me. So I went into the military because we all got drafted then. All the guys got drafted. If you were physically and mentally okay, Uncle Sam came and snatched you up while you went. I didn't want to go to college. When I got to Vietnam, I decided I should have gone to college. And then I did, but it was too late. It was after the fact. So that's part of my identity. It begins really when you form your attachment, and that forms in the first year of life. You're going to be securely attached or insecurely attached, depending on what care you get from your caregiver, mommy in most cases, but not always. So you're either going to be good to go or not so good to go, and that's part of your identity. And all this, again, remember, this is development. And then where am I at when I reach adolescence? In these areas: physical development, cognitive development, socio-emotional development. I get to a point as an adolescent where I should be, and this is a dangerous word, should, where I should be capable of understanding what my identity is and recognizing what it is. It doesn't mean I accept it. It just means that I'm able to recognize it. Excuse me for bouncing around. And then that's going to lead toward what we call maturity, which is age-appropriate behavior, and you're headed toward adulthood. So this is a very formative time in development. And we're talking about, again, the socio-emotional part of that. I'm not worried about physical. I'm not worried about the other stuff right now. Now, I don't want you to be either. I want you to concentrate at the moment on the socio-emotional stuff. My emotions affecting others and theirs affecting me. And then how do I adapt? How do I deal with that? How do I adapt myself into that, or how do I adapt that into my view of life? So a very important part of the formative years for you. Now, I want to peek forward, and then we'll be done for the day. And we call this area emerging adulthood. You're going to have to practice a little self-discipline in order to satisfy yourself with your identity and be happy with it, but not always. You may go to work, or you may graduate from undergrad school and go to grad school, whatever it is that you do. And then you give yourself allowances for change. If you lock into something, this fellow James Marcia has a really cool theory, and he has 4 points, and I'm not going to go through those points, but there's a fifth occurrence. For some people, not everybody, it's called MAMA, M-A-M-A, and it doesn't mean Yama. Here's what it means. It means moratorium achievement, moratorium achievement, moratorium, sorry, forgot the other one. But basically, here's what it does. You, as an adolescent, you choose a career. And there are ways of getting there, and that's what his theory talks about. So now, boom, I choose a career, and I spend 20 years in that career. And moratorium achievement, duh. So I go through MA as an adolescent, pick a career, military, to do what I do, maybe professor, whatever it is. And you do your little 20 years, maybe 30 for some. And then you reach the end of that, or partway through it, 15, 20 years into it, you go, well, I've been doing this a long time. I'm interested in some other things. So Marcia says you have a second moratorium and then a second achievement. Moratorium means exploration. I'm sitting here talking to myself from my explorations about what is it that I might want to do. That's what a moratorium is. It's nothing more than a meeting with yourself. And I go, boy, I really like those airplanes. I think I'm going to go take flight lessons and learn to fly jets and haul people around the countryside. So that's a moratorium achievement. That is part of your identity. That is part of your development. So that's what this whole thing's about. I hope it made sense for you. And I'll see you soon.